Hello, everyone. How's it going? Let's get a nice little Denver Sucks in the chat. Let's see how many we can get. Let's see if we can just flood this chat with Denver Sucks. Right now, I'm looking out my window at what appears to be a very big fire across I-25 at the edge of the mountains. Actually, it looks like it's on the Air Force Academy property. If it's not on the Air Force Academy property, it's literally right next to it. That's quite the thing. It smells outside like fire. Anyway, before we get going today, if you have a question, that's good. It's a good state of mind to be in. But have you watched the videos? And not just the Earth disaster video and solar micronova video, which are linked below in the description box right down there, but the space weather learning playlist, the climate playlist, whatever it is you have a question about, whether that's solar storms, the magnetic pole shift, solar micronova, have you done your homework? I'm going to do my best. If you ask a question that is very clearly answered in these videos or those other videos, to, in a salt-free way, direct you to those videos. Beyond that, Yellowstone is broken. Please don't ask about Yellowstone. I've answered the question about 400 times. No, it's not a threat. No, I will not answer questions about your specific location and whether or not you're going to be okay. And as always, please don't forget, Denver sucks. So, what do we have questions about? Earth disaster cycle, magnetic pole shift, micronova, space weather, solar storms. And have you heard of EMP shunt devices? I don't think that they're going to work. No, I have none. I have none. And I've checked them out. Why don't you put up a globe? I'm sure you have one, and show these crazy people asking where they're going to be. Because I made several videos on that specifically. Ben, when are you going to be on Joe Rogan? Oh, yeah, because it's totally up to me. Do you know when I will get on Joe Rogan or when I will get on Tucker Carlson? When you guys request it in a non-dickish way. They don't take self-promotion at all. Are you trying to get an AI model for what the tsunami might look like? I ask people on Twitter all the time if anybody can help me with AI videos or anything else like that. Apparently, nobody can. I don't even care if it's not AI, if it's just somebody who knows how to do computer animation and other things like that. No. All right, what does this say? Marty says, I have observed that right after a CME, contrails are intense. Is there any correlation between increased atmospheric vapor triggered by charged particles in this sense? Not that I know of. I've noticed it with geomagnetic storm onset, but not necessarily after a CME release. Of course, some of it could be cloud seeding. But no, I can't say, Marty, that I have any specific knowledge on anything like that. What'd you guys think of that story this morning about the magnetic crochet? So I only check the AGU journals on Saturdays. That paper came out literally as the networks were going down earlier this week. Like while the networks were going down on the heels of the solar flare, that paper about solar flare driven magnetic crochets and electrical disruptions on the earth came out literally at that exact same time. I don't believe in coincidences. Somebody says, scroll too far. New and desperately trying to get caught up. Vid 3 of climate change playlist. Where do we find info on the when? Hote. Denver sucks. I don't know what that means, but I don't even remember what video 3 of the climate change playlist is. Where do we find info on the when? I mean, I'm not Jesus. I don't have a crystal ball. These are processes that are ongoing. I can't tell you if the Beaufort Gyre has begun to start releasing, or once it releases, how long it will take to actually kick in. Um, as long as the sun is maintaining this level of activity and we're not in a grand solar minimum, which is the case, uh, the grand solar minimum stuff is not going to come into play. Um, how long does it take for the melting polar ice to both freshen and chill the oceans? These are questions that are hard to answer. It's a lot easier to see the progression and know from a physics perspective what's going to lead into the next thing. Um, Knowing the exact timing, that's not something that's really that easy to do. Thank you for the teal pair there, Boudica or Boudica, Boudica, cool name. All right. I was thinking, could the Oort cloud be the solidified remnant of the last shell ejection? That's what I'm thinking, or the last couple ejections. I think that the micronova, um, the smaller pieces from it go out and stop in the Oort cloud. Some of the bigger pieces probably stop it in the asteroid belt. I think that it's a pretty good explanation for some of those things, although I'm not completely discounting the destroyed planet idea for the asteroid belt. Rogan won't ask because it's beyond his brain. I don't know about that. He had Jimmy Corsetti on there. He's had people on there talking about this stuff before. Elon Musk mentioned some stuff that's kind of related when he was on Joe Rogan's show. I actually don't think this is beyond Joe Rogan. A lot of the question is whether or not he's willing to go there for a full episode. Anyway, fair question. Hey, Ben, if I don't live in Yellowstone, will the blasty white thing in the sky get me while drinking a soy latte in Denver? Oh, hi, Joe. How's it going? Don't drink soy lattes. If you're a man, there's no reason to be consuming soy on any level. Please don't do it. Bo? Hey, what's up, Bo? Thank you for the teal pair. Makes me happy. Does make me happy. I've heard rumors of an umbrella being put up in the sky to reduce the sun effects. What material would they or could they use? I have no idea. I'm not paying attention to it. I just hope they don't do it. It's a terrible idea. You guys just don't like the Broncos. I don't blame you. Kevin, that is not why we don't like Denver. It is a liberal shithole, and there is a higher concentration of satanic cults there than in Hollywood or Washington, D.C. And no, I'm not just talking about whatever the heck is underneath the Denver airport. I'm talking about the people in Denver. You wouldn't believe how much Satan worship goes on there. And again, liberal shithole. Not every liberal is a piece of shit. Not every democratic city is a liberal shithole, but the term liberal shithole exists for a reason. Just like on the other side of the political coin, the term racist trailer trash exists for a reason. Denver is a liberal shithole. That's what it is, Kevin. Anyway. Thoughts on having... All right, so this is funny. This dude's trying to ask about a glass blowing thing. Well, he had a little typo issue and it came out. Thoughts on having an ass blowing studio in case critical delicate components in glass. Lord Huck, I had to do that. That's probably the funniest typo I've ever seen. All right, back to something serious now. I hope you know I like my coffee black and the tea in the harbor. Right on, Joe. Right on. I didn't think you were a soy boy. For those who don't know, I've met Joe. I know him. If one's plan is to float away, how does one bring enough preps with them? It's an excellent question. Livestock, good luck. You literally need Noah's Ark. Don't disagree. Can we cache preps on land from the flood? How would one find their cache? It's a legit question. It's a legit question. If your plan is to float away, you either need to have something huge to float away in, or your plan is to start with nothing wherever you land. Now, that's not to say that can't be done. It's obviously much more challenging to do that than to have a bunch of preps with you after the event. But, without necessarily giving you a great answer, you've hit on a very real issue. And for those who are planning to float away, being ready whenever you land to have nothing, figuring out how much and making the decisions about what comes on that flotation with you, that's huge. That's huge. The tsunamis are coming. And if you're going to float away, that's better than dying in the tsunami. But you have serious things to consider if that is your bug out and prep plan. No doubt about it. Serious things to consider. Thanks for all you do. Duration between red sun and black sun, and then black sun and pale. I'm thinking that when the sun starts to turn red, it's going to redden to blacken over the course of maybe just a day. And then, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be the 3 days of darkness that is written about in far more than just Christian texts, by the way. It's in way more places than just that. Could it be 1 day? Could it be 6 days? Yeah, maybe. Is it going to be weeks and weeks? No. Everything would die. And that's never happened before. And we know this has happened a lot. Thoughts, Africa and moving to Europe, South Americans moving to the U.S. Thoughts on Africans moving to Europe, South Americans moving to the U.S. Are they watching this channel and moving to the new tropics? No, that's not what's happening. The woke agenda is to bring these people in for votes and to destroy Western culture. The ultimate aim is to destroy Western culture, because it is the only thing stopping their Satanist way of rising. And yes, these people in charge on that side of the coin are absolutely Satanists. I don't believe in the devil, but these people sure do, and they're making it real for all of us. Wendy, Wyoming, thank you for the teal pair. Appreciate that. It could be 3 years without sun, says Michael. Michael, I'm sorry, but no. Everything would be dead. Everything would die. The entire planet would be dead. That's never happened before, and it's not going to happen this time either. Learn to forage, not a bad call. You're wearing a cross and don't believe in the devil. Yeah, I don't believe the devil has any power. Look, I'm wearing this because of one simple reason. I know from subatomic particle physics to grand cosmological scales, as well as just about anybody. And I don't see one single shred of evidence for this realm, our world, being the random result of billions of years of collisions and gravity and chaos. I see the engineering of the creator everywhere. Everywhere. And I know people are going to give me shit for this one. But, the fact that it's the cross and not the Star of David or something from Islam is really not as important as the fact that it's all the God of Abraham. Christians, Jews, Muslims, yeah, we got some disagreements and some differences, but it's all the same God, the God of Abraham. And I don't claim to know all of the intricacies and details there, but I do know that I know this universe pretty darn well, and the nature and the math and the geometry and the frequencies and the harmonics and the vibrations, and I see no evidence for anything other than brilliant engineering. Does that answer your question? Now, whoever asked that, I don't remember what your name was, but whoever asked that, if you don't have anything on point scientifically about this channel to say, shut the fuck up. You're not helping. Peter, do you have an estimate how high the splashback wave will be in the Pacific coast? I don't. I wish I did. Is there any way to calculate that? Do you have an estimate how high the splashback wave will be? Is there any way to... Oh, you just typed the same thing twice. So the reason I don't is because I would need to know the electrical energy of the arc discharge that's likely to happen in the West Pacific. And then I would need to know exactly where it was in the West Pacific. Like I said, I'm not Jesus. I don't have a crystal ball. I wouldn't be anywhere near the coastline. Something tells me standing right next to the Hollywood sign, probably not going to be good enough. That valley that's in the center of California will be filled with water. Put it that way. That's the best I can do. I'm sorry. I wish I had like high detailed answers for all the things you guys want to ask sometimes. And the truth is, I think I do a pretty good job. I do the best I can with the information that I have. But again, I'm not a god. I'm like you guys. Except I probably go to the gym more than you do and eat more steak. Thank you for your service to what you love. Appreciate that, J&C. Thank you very much. Slight addition to what I said earlier. I'm almost certain I eat more steak than most of you. Now cue all the steak lovers in the chat. Be like, no, I eat this much steak. Thomas, thank you for the teal pair. Makes me smile. Makes me smile. I see people starting to ask about their locations. No, don't ask about your location. I'm not stopping all of this to answer one specific, relatively selfish question. Sorry, that's not going to happen. Ben, have you looked at mantle maps in enough detail to predict how the next mega expansion will impart a tilt, direction, and degree? Wally, I show exactly how the Earth will tilt. Exactly how the Earth is going to tilt. Please do the homework, my friend. Bless you. Have you ever read the Bible of if entirely? I don't know exactly what that means, but if you're asking if I've read the entire Bible, yes, and I've read all the Gnostic texts. I've also read the Quran. I've also read tons of Vedic texts, Zoroastrian texts. I know pretty much all of the ancient Indian stories, and I don't mean Native American. I mean India. I do know some of the Native American stories as well. Dr. Dunning and I don't know if you guys watched the original Earth Disaster playlist when I brought Dr. Dunning in to basically break down all the ancient stories, from Central America, South America, Native Americans, Africa, Australian Aborigines. I know all that stuff. Yeah, I have read it. I don't see what other question there is or what that's going, but is your campground open yet? Nope, probably 2 months. 2 months. Good question. Where can I meet a single female observer? All right, so as many of you guys know, there is solarkillshot.org. While it is not mine and I don't run it, I definitely support the idea. There are observers meeting up all over the world, not just in the United States. Observers are connecting with each other through solarkillshot.org. Yes, you do have to pay a fee. And the reason for that is because when you create a site like that, where there's a lot of posting and other things like that, if there's not a paywall, the entire site will be nothing but porn bots and casino ads within about 2 minutes. You can't imagine how atrocious it'll get, literally in moments. And it's not that much money, and it's worth it. And if you're really wanting to meet other observers, start your own network, maybe meet the love of your life observer kind of thing, solarkillshot.org. It's a lot of work went into it. Have you ever been coast to coast? Somebody's never heard of the Mobile Observatory Project. In 2014, Kat and I turned a 36-foot Class A RV, a Fleetwood Bounder, by the way, into the Mobile Observatory Project. We hit 41 states and 4 Canadian provinces in 8 months. And then Kat got pregnant with our first child and we had to stop. With the way you respond, you are full of yourself just saying, no shit, my ego is through the roof. Do you have anything useful or constructive to say, Michael? Or are you just being a dipshit here, wasting everyone's time? Yes, my ego is huge. So what? I've had 0 days off since 2011. I haven't missed a day in the gym for years. I am an outstanding father to my 3 children. I'm credited with discovering how the sun triggers the biggest earthquakes in the world. Co-authors from a statistics department and a NASA scientist. Yeah, Ben, your ego, you're full of yourself. Yeah. Now shut up. All right, back to real questions here. Oh my God, I've missed a few. Has anyone let you know that the flash frozen ducks from China were actually from South Dakota, supposedly dead from avian flu? I did hear about that. I wouldn't doubt that somebody jacked that picture. I went and I took a look at the weather data after I'd heard that. I think that article was talking about negative 52C. I saw some, unfortunately, these are like 10-kilometer grid blocks. I saw it as low as negative 44 C, which would absolutely take out some stuff like that. But again, it's hard to know exactly. I mean, I would believe that they took the pictures and the video and reused them from something else. That happens on the internet all the time. There was definitely a massive cold blast. Whether or not that actually killed birds or had any other effect, I don't know. But thank you for that. I did see that. I did check into it a little bit, but then I got a little busy with solar flares earlier this week, as you might imagine. As the solar system moves through the galactic current sheet, will the dust collected get thick enough to see with our eyes or measure with instruments? I don't. Well, so we've already seen it measured. Caleb Darnell, have you watched these videos? They've discovered it in the sun's atmosphere, in interplanetary space, and all the way out past Pluto. More dust than they expected and increasing levels of dust. We're already starting to see it. Now, whether or not it's going to get to the point where it blocks out stars, I don't think so. I think that the main visual effect is going to be when the galactic magnetic reversal actually occurs. The electrical activity is shut off in the photosphere of the sun, and the dust can actually accumulate there, causing a redness and a blackening. I think that's probably the only visual we're going to see. Good question, though, and please doeth thine homework. What is the likelihood that the governments of the world already know of the disaster cycle? They know, and I explain how they know and how we know they know. Do the homework, please. They have a continuity of government operations put in place. They're very much planning. Part of that is in Antarctica. Part of that is in all of the seed vaults that are in the Arctic or close to the Arctic. They know, and they're trying to stay on top of the pyramid for when this whole thing happens, I assure you. Scrolling. Which land will rise or continent break up? Again, I don't know the answer to all that. I wish I knew the answers to all that. It's a little bit like roulette. I'm pretty sure the East African Rift is going to split Africa. That's about the best I can tell you. Whether or not your part of the world anywhere else is going to rise, fall, or stay in the same elevation, I don't know. It's a legitimate question. It'd be great to know. But again, I only have access to certain amounts of information. Estrogen Acres says people don't realize that America was the last great event and everything has been wiped away. That is true. North America took the brunt of the last one in a big way. The last one pounded North America worse than anywhere else. The one before that pounded Europe and Africa worse than everywhere else. The one before that pounded the Middle East and parts of Asia worse than everywhere else. It does seem to be ticking around the world like that, which makes me think that America will not be hit as bad this time, but it'll still be rough. Scroll too far. Marcus, hello, and thank you very much. What's your guess as to the timeline of events the next 24 years? Lots of shenanigans from the people in charge of this planet. I wish I knew whether or not we were going to have a grand solar minimum next cycle. There's no way to know that until the sunspot cycle starts descending. So we're basically up at the crest right now of sunspot maximum. When it starts going down, we will be able to see how much juice the sun has left in the tank, which tells us what the next cycle is going to be. It's called using the solar polar magnetic fields. It is the only legitimate forecast solar activity on a 11-year cycle scale. If we don't go into a grand solar minimum, I think there's a very good chance that next sunspot maximum, Earth's magnetic field will be weak enough that the sun's going to take out power to the globe, and we're all going to be basically living like cavemen, waiting for the sun to turn red years later. If we do get grand solar minimum, I think that we could start to see some of those cold effects even sooner than some people have anticipated, myself included. Follow-up, any estimate on water depth east of the Rockies? AI says Gulf of Mexico would flood to a depth of 30 feet. If max depth is not too bad, then one could tether your boat arc to your property. The problem with that is the run-up effect. And that means that the leading edge of the wave is going to be magnanimous, absolutely magnanimous. If you don't know about wave run-up physics, like on a beach, so let's say you got a beach like here and you've got a wave that comes and crashes, it goes up much higher than the wave actually was. And the higher up it goes, the thicker it gets because it's slowing down, but the water behind it is going faster. I would say 30 feet is not what I would count on. I would not count on that at all, especially along the Mississippi River Valley. No way. No way. John Weber says, my super chat got missed if you get a chance. What did you say? What did you say? What did you say? All right. Did anybody see what John Weber's super chat was that I missed? Because I can't scroll up any further and get it. John, send me an email if I don't get to see it. Tartaria and mud flood being pushed on alternative MSM in the late 1800s doesn't match a known catastrophe. Sunken buildings, front doors, second levels of buildings, etc. Thoughts, please, Ben. So it really was just in that area. It's not like the entire world was taken out. I think that was a mud volcano, a massive mud volcano or chain series of mud volcanoes. It was very real. That was a very real event. But no, I don't think that's part of any of the cyclical catastrophe, things like that. What's the guarantee that these underground bunkers, tunnels won't get crushed to dust during the flip? So, Marcus, I've gone over this a fair amount of times. I would not want one of these deep underground military bases. You want to be underground just a little bit, but the further down you go, the more induced current you're subject to, the stronger the shaking is going to get you. The closer you are to the magma below. I wouldn't want to be in a deep bunker. Definitely would not want to be in a deep bunker. What do you think about the idea that the days in the year jumped from 360 to 365 days beginning in the year 701 BC? What could have happened cosmologically? So I've never heard that specific year for that. I don't even know for a fact. I mean, I've heard people speculating on this. I haven't seen any evidence that that's how it was. And it's an interesting thought process, but I don't know if, I don't know what to say on that one. It's an interesting thing to think about, but that's not something I usually focus on. Thoughts on Colorado's HB 24 1292 semi-auto ban? Any kind of infringement upon the Second Amendment sucks. That's all I have to say. I have no idea what that bill says, and I haven't read it. And regardless of what they pass, it's not going to affect anything that I do. I'm not giving them my guns. They can come take them. Let them try. Jeff, more than thank you for the teal pair. Appreciate that. If the statistical anomaly happens and there's a celestial body between the sun and earth, what would happen if we took a Carrington level flare? Absolutely nothing. Just like if there's a rock in front of you out in the ocean, what's that wave coming at you going to do? It's just going to go around the rock, reform on the other side, and keep coming right at you. The idea that like the moon could save us or something, no, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. And in fact, it may actually be slightly worse, because there is such a thing as a magnetotail, which focuses that electromagnetic energy. So for example, when we get hit with a coronal mass ejection, the scariest place in the world to be would be directly behind the earth from the sun's perspective, because the magnetotail is funneling all that electric energy into that magnetotail. So John, if that was your question, I hope that helps and answers it at least a bit. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Can these have any physical effects on the body? Can what have any physical effects on the body? What are these? Can these what? Solar activity? Yeah. It's chapter 5 of my book. There's hundreds of articles, hundreds of scientific studies on almost everything physiological, from major cardiac events to major organ issues down to cellular processes, DNA damage, and a lot on the psychological aspect as well. Without more to your question, I can't say I can give you a better answer than that. Then you are the salt of the earth. That's kind of you to say. Thank you for fearlessly speaking truth. Do you think biblical second coming is an allegory for this event? Yeah, I do. I do. I think that the Bible and most religious texts are a combination of factual information, allegory, and metaphor. Man, I know so many of you want to see Jesus coming down out of the sky and then float up in a rapture of some kind. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. Yeah. Edward says, I did my homework on the galactic current sheet. One question, is the recent excessive dust in our atmosphere related to the galactic current sheet? Yes. So modern estimates are that we have 55 to 60% more dust in our atmosphere than we did a century ago. They will want to blame climate change and greater winds blowing dust and sand off the Sahara. There's no way that accounts for more than like 2 or 3%. The vast majority of that is coming from the galactic current sheet. Excellent question, Edward. Still see people asking questions about their location. Stop asking questions about your location. Stop that. Let's go, Brandon. Denver sucks. So sorry, that is what I meant. Thank you. Right on, B. Gotcha. Jim's, okay, well, I have no idea what that's supposed to say. Is there evidence of ice previously being in the expected locations of the new poles, and does the reversal always end up in the same location? So KJ, have you caught any of the stuff I've done about the fact that there are still glaciers in the tropics today? Now, not only is that something to make your head go, what? But we are 12,000 years into a warm interglacial cycle. The cycles before this one were glacial cycles. Yeah, I think that in previous cycles, there was ice all over the place, pretty much no matter where you went. But yeah, there is definitely still ice. I mean, you ask if there's evidence of ice ever being there. The ice is still there. Now, I happen to think that one of the best candidates for the previous pole positions are the Bermuda Triangle and the Dragons Triangle. And since those are in the tropical oceans, no, there's no ice currently there. And it would be hard to tell if there was ice there 12,000 years ago. But yeah. Somebody says, I'm afraid to ask a question. You should be. You should be. Andrea Drake, hello, and thank you for the support. Appreciate that. Ben, what do you think a large man-made EMP will do to the already occurring magnetic pole shift? I don't think it'll do anything to the planetary electromagnetism. It would jack up all of our technology for sure. But no, we're ants on this planet. We can't do anything for real to the planet like that. It's fun to think about. Since water flood issues are the #1 issue of the disaster cycle, maybe. I wonder if you'd consider asking the observer community to crowdfund supercomputing time to model the flooding in the US. I'm willing. That kind of supercomputing time, you know what that costs? 10 to 15 million. No, I'm not asking you guys to do that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no funding something like that. Sam Tolliday, appreciate you. Thank you. Is this dude still asking if my campground's open yet? Like I didn't just answer that a couple minutes ago. Oof. I have had 3 brain surgeries due to traumatic brain injuries in the Army. Ouch. Metal filaments and wiring in brain, neck, and chest. Anything I can do to prep other than exercise, meditation, and clean food. I mean, you're talking about strengthening your own body field. That's always going to be your best defense. You can't just live your life inside of a Faraday cage or live your life wrapped in plastic, you know? Strengthening your own body energy field is by far the best way to protect your own body. Definitely. Mountain Mama says red sunrises and sunsets more than ever. Why? I don't know that that's true. We got a lot more people with cameras right now talking about it and posting stuff online. I haven't seen any kind of increase in my own personal life of more red sunsets or sunrises than usual. Since Denver sucks, how will it fare? Luckily, most of that city's going to eat each other alive. And I won't have to think about them ever again. I'm seeing a lot more red sun. Okay. If you guys are, that's fine. I'm not noticing anything like that. Oy, oy, oy. Thoughts on timing? We will get hit with higher, not the X-class flare. We will lose electricity before the nova. We need to prep for pre-industrial life before the 12,000 year timeline. Your thoughts? Yeah, Daniel. I mean, I've said that plenty of times. You should be prepared to be wherever you are with the weather you've got right now for at least a decade and no electricity before the tilt, before the micronova, before all that. That's something that there's a now consideration, a during the event consideration, and an after the event consideration. Part of the now consideration is, okay, where are you now? If there was no electricity for 10 years before the tilt and all that other stuff, could you survive where you are now with your preps with no electricity? Could you handle the weather? Could you handle all of that? Absolutely, Daniel. The answer is yes to that. Does the complete shedding of the magnetosphere, I don't know what that is, have an effect on the severity of the pull of the moon has on the water ocean? I wouldn't say that we're shedding the magnetosphere. It's just weakening. But no, while I do think that gravity is an effect of electromagnetic forces, it's not as simple as just saying that. It's not as simple as magnetism. It's not as simple as electricity. There's the electromagnetokinetic effect. There's the idea of, okay, if you've got an electric current going this way, what is its effect on neutral particles or energetic particles that are in its way? What's the right-hand rule of electromagnetism? Magnetism has both attractive and repelling forces. I don't know if the loss of the magnetosphere is going to directly affect the pull that the moon has on the Earth. It's a fair question, though, and a fun one. Observation: the Earth is fat, not flat. You're welcome, everyone. Thank you, I think. Why in the world would the majority of media say that the recent outages were related to a hacker update if that is clearly not the case? They're not your friends. They don't have our interests in mind. They're pushing lies and an agenda on purpose. The last thing in the world they want is people understanding what's going on. And by the way, I think it's funny that, like, even now, you've got half the sources saying it was an update to software and half the sources saying it was a hack. That's like the biggest red flag ever. I did some videos on this the other day, V. You may have seen them. But yeah, no, the government, mainstream news, and big corporations are not our friends. I don't believe anything they say. What causes the crust to shift back the other way? Andrea, have you done the homework? Planet tilts like this. What happens at the new poles? Ice builds up and builds up and builds up. What causes the tilt in the first place? The ice weight once the crust is unlocked from the mantle. So the crust unlocks, the planet goes like this. New ice builds up. 12,000 years later, it's unlocked again, tilts. That was literally like the 60-second version of it. Curious Kiwi says fear porn. Then you can cough. Are there any sunspot characteristics that might give forewarning of potentially producing a kill shot? Not beyond what I've already shared. Democracy. Have you watched the space weather lessons playlist down there below the video? I talk about sunspot classification in terms of magnetism. Outside of that, no, there's nothing you can look at and be like, oh, that's an even bigger sign than it being beta, gamma, delta, and being the size of Uranus. There's not a specific kill shot look to a sunspot group. Fair question, though. And if you haven't watched that Space Weather Lessons playlist, please go ahead and do so. It's pretty good. Obsessed with your channel since your collab with Jimmy. Thank you, Gary. What are your thoughts on Darren Kuyu being like a Noah's Ark to survive a previous pole flip? Maybe. It's an interesting idea, and it's one of the better ones, but at the end of the day, that one's still just like, ooh, that's a really cool and interesting idea, and that might be it. Maybe. Denver sucks. Thank you, Jimmy Joe. I appreciate that. It does suck, doesn't it? It sucks so much. You ever contact Tony Heller? Tony Heller started following me on Twitter, which was badass. That was badass. I have some awesome people following me on Twitter, by the way. I was checking it out the other day. Yeah, Tony Heller follows me. Tara Bull follows me. She does that Friday rundown of all the stuff that mainstream news isn't telling you. Tristan Tate follows me. Obviously, Jimmy Corsetti, he and I are friends. Rothmus follows me, who Elon Musk interacts with every once in a while. The porn star Sterling Cooper follows me. I think that's kind of cool. Maybe slightly weird, but also very cool. Anyway. Your book is listed on Amazon for $775. Oh, are those resellers doing that again? Thanks for telling me that, Doug. So essentially what happens is people who have like the older versions of the book. So like right now we're on Weatherman's Guide to the Sun, 3rd edition. We haven't sold the 1st edition in years, but people have it and they're like, oh, you can't buy this anywhere. Let me put it on Amazon for a preposterous price. That happens. There's literally nothing I can do about it. And it's very unfortunate. Good news is you do not want the 1st edition. Why not literally move the decimal point on that over one in the better direction and get the latest version? Yeah. Please talk more of plasma physics as often as possible. Why? Why? In what context? In what context would I do that? Next time, can you go live at a different time than the Alex Jones show? What? I don't know when Alex Jones goes live. You got to be shitting me if you believe the weight of the polar caps caused the poles to flip. Actually, that's what all the math suggests, Eric. And whatever, even if it is a tiny, tiny little inhomogeneity on any spinning object that has the freedom to tilt, which would be the crust being unlocked from the mantle, the heaviest portion of the outer shell will seek to do anything possible to spin at the point of greatest centrifugal force, which would be the equator. This is basic physics you learn in the first 2 years if you are in that science whatsoever. And yeah, I would say that the ice caps are a little more than just a little bit of an inhomogeneity. All right, no more talking about the trolls. Does the current sheet have a factor in increasing the pole flip? It is the cause of it, Malachi. Did you do the homework? Did you do the homework? It is the cause of everything that's happening in our solar system right now. Uh-oh. I just caught a glimpse of something down below. Goliath Slayer, thank you for the teal pear. DDD. That's like a teal pear and a lemon superhero. I like that. That's badass. Question, hey Ben, could you speculate if there are any civilizations hiding out in Antarctica? Maybe. And if you'd rather not, what do you make of the Yuga cycles? We are 1 year from the end of Kali Yuga. Maybe. Maybe we are, maybe we're not. So I obviously don't know what's going on in Antarctica. None of us really know what's going on in Antarctica. All I know for sure is those people that came out and were like, this is what they have in Antarctica. They're hiding this and they have an earthquake machine. That was bullshit. No part of anything that they said was believable. Other than that, there's something going on in Antarctica, but I don't know what. As for the Yuga cycles, we don't really know when one cycle starts and another one ends. It's a fun thing to think about, but yeah. What's your opinion on the supposed Planet X Nibiru complex having influence on the poles flipping throughout the solar system? So sides, I've gone over this probably 10,000 times, but I'm going to do my best to do it again now. 72,000 years ago, Shoals star red binary system absolutely passed right through our solar system, probably had some planets. It was so devastating and so terrifying that every single time a disaster befell the Earth after that, the ancients thought, oh, it's back. It's back. This evil thing is back. We can see the Shoals star red binary out there, something like 17 light years away, and it's a hypervelocity system. It's moving even further away. There is no Planet X Nibiru here, nothing coming. For all the electromagnetic changes we see from the sun all the way out to Pluto, there's not a single moon out of place. There's no gravitational effects whatsoever. That one's a complete no-go. And I will even admit, when I first got into all this stuff, I loved that story. It got my imagination going, whatever. It's magic, but it's just wrong. It's just false. That's not what's going on here. The shirt is badass, isn't it? I like it. What else we got? What else we got here? Yeah, all right. I'm seeing a comment there. I'm not going to mention it, but there's no shame in falling for the Nibiru thing at first. None. Especially if you're not an astronomer, if you don't know physics. That's not something that to be like ashamed of. Like it took me weeks, months to figure out that wasn't what was going on. and I spend a lot of time on it. But yeah, no, there's no shame in being, um, you know, there's no shame in not knowing and not understanding something relatively complex. Someone asked if the powers know. I have worked on it. EMP protected generators in FEMA primary entry point stations. These generators can run for weeks without human intervention, powering one-way comms to the U.S. That's interesting. Yeah, they definitely know. Thanks for that input, Dash Savers. Appreciate it. Mike Glover from Fieldcraft Survival follows you too. Mentioned in a video this week, he is a fan. He is legit too. I'll check him out. Not at this exact moment. We're busy doing something, but if he gave me a shout out, thanks to Mike Glover. That's very cool of him. I remember the 3 Days of Darkness prophecy. It was supposed to happen in 2012, but was delayed. So, who said it was supposed to happen in 2012? Bunch of lunatics on the internet. If you'll recall, anybody who's been any real SOOGs, any OG observers, you remember in 2012, I was like, guys, this is not the end. It's not 2012. We're in big shit. It's coming in the years ahead, but it's not this year. It's not 2012. Yeah. Nobody reputable or who had any legitimate evidence was saying it was going to happen in 2012. There were some lunatics on the internet who were saying it, but Spirit Warrior, you have taken that concept too far. It's a legitimate concept, but also that's like knowing somebody has a gun pointed at your head. In fact, they're standing right in front of you and they're saying, I'm going to shoot you in 3, 2. And when they say 1, you can be like, well, I can't verify that he's going to pull that trigger or that I won't survive the bullet going through my head. So there's no point in even being worried about it. You see how stupid that sounds? Do you see how stupid that sounds? Spirit Warrior. The concept is legitimate up to a point. Enough evidences and then 8 coincidences stacked on top of one another, which fail to be coincidences at that point, is something to be aware of, something to think about, something to plan for, to stay informed about. I'll tell you what, I seem to have a problem. I offer way too much time and attention to idiots, but it's just so much fun. Can you comment on GEAT plasma reactor? I don't have any idea what that is. I have absolutely no clue what that is. If it's a thing that Randall Carlson's working on, I wouldn't donate to it, put it that way. If it's not that, then I don't know what it is. Ellen, that's a cute little gift there. Isn't that cute? How do I thumbs up this thing? All right, I can't figure that out. 2 seconds, but I like it. And thank you for the support. Appreciate that. People don't realize that the blue and red Kachinas are a different cycle. Yeah, maybe they are. Maybe they're not. I have absolutely no idea. I think that story is fascinating as well, but also that one's harder than all the others put together to fit in with the things we can verify as fact. Antarctica, studying ice from the last event when the atmospheric gas moisture flash froze into hailstones the size of a talent. I don't necessarily know what that means, but there's a reason why the United States, China, the EU, India, Russia, all the countries that are supposedly about to be at war with everyone, they haven't broken the Antarctic Treaty. They're all working together down there. All this stuff happening on the news and for us up here, theater. Yeah. Whatever they're really doing is happening down there, and we get the thespian version up here. It pisses me off, actually. It's unfortunate. Quick hello to the mods that are here. I see GSD Alpha and Barbarian. I haven't seen Stormy or Nebulosity yet, but hopefully they're around and okay. All right, scrolling. When you speak about what areas have been burned by the L shell, you don't seem to account for the alternating orientations of the crust. I think there is no predicting the next location. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true. If you actually get a globe and you do the back and forth, you can see how, oh, wait a minute. Even with that going on, it can still tick around the world like that. Go ahead and Jonathan, get yourself a globe and actually do that and see if you can find a way to still make it work like that going around the world. And I simply cannot deny the evidence of where the hardest hit areas are. The time when it hit Europe and Africa the hardest, it's very possible that it also hit the Arctic exceptionally hard during that time. The time when it pounded Asia the hardest, it's possible it hit Antarctica really hard at the time, but we don't have those studies. Nobody's gone and dug down there looking for things like that. So Malcolm says, some people see 1 + 1 and conclude it's 11. Yes. Well, the internet's a fun place these days, isn't it? Somebody said I'm being too. Somebody just implied I'm being too mean. Am I being too mean today? I don't think I'm being too mean today. I feel like I've been relatively salt-free. Leon Kingsley, delete that Yellowstone thing before one of my mods thinks you're being a D-bag and blocks you from the channel. Daniel, is the Little Spark still accepting donations for the campground or playground? Yes. Yes. Go to observerranch.com and you can find the links to that. Catherine Prantner says, love your channel. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Can you go over background plasma convection, please? In what context, Corey? And what does that have to do with anything that we're talking about right now? If they could leave Earth, why they build bunkers? I don't think they can leave Earth as easily as you think they can. What about the recent moon turning to blood with hematite? I'm not sure it has anything to do with hematite, but there's reasons for seeing red moons and yellow moons and orange moons and blue moons. Leon Kingsley, Yellowstone is broken. Dude, you got one more chance and then somebody's going to block you. No, it's broken. It's broken. Yellowstone is broken. Dude, like, have you not watched any of our videos? Are you like, is this your first day here, Leon? Jesus. Somebody's asking a question about the Chinese spy balloons. No, they're literally just trolling us in real time because they literally own our government. They own our president. They own half of Congress and the Senate. Like this, that China's literally just trolling us in real time right now. That's literally all this is. Anything that they want to know, they will just get the people they have under their thumb to tell them. They don't need to spy. They're literally just trolling us. Yes, it is Rocky's birthday from the Big Bird, by the way. Happy birthday, Rocky. Happy birthday, Rocky. I don't think he's here at the moment, but it is his birthday today. Yeah, I'm a little salty today, but I don't think I've been saltier. I've been way saltier than this, right? Right? I feel like I've been saltier than this before. Malachi's Corner. That's a heck of a name. Thank you. Appreciate it. Native Man, thank you as well. We're going to call it here pretty soon. 13 days ago, monster filament northern limb eruption. If that was Earth directed, what effects with it? So that was actually a mid-sized filament. That was not a monster eruption. And it gave Earth a glancing blow this morning. If you watch the morning show, we did take a little love tap from that this morning. Didn't even cause a geomagnetic storm. If that had been directly aimed at Earth, we probably would have gotten geomagnetic storms, but that was certainly not going to be one to worry about. Appreciate that, though. Appreciate the question. Seeing people writing China loves Denver. That's funny. Oy, oy, oy. All right, guys, we've been here an hour. Best guesstimate on how many people will survive the pole shift. Somewhere between 50 and 500 million. That's my best guess. Maybe a billion. I don't know. Happy birthday to Rocky. Ben, you are the best. Appreciate that. Rocky's not so bad either. I was hanging out with Rocky a little bit yesterday. Yesterday was Noah's birthday. A little dude turned 7. Little baby Adam turns 4. Just a couple more days. We're entering, this is like my kids' birthday season. End of February to end of May is like when all my kids have their birthdays. Okay, here we go. Have you seen the math of the Mayan calendar recalculated to match when we changed our current system? Puts the prediction to 2046 instead of 2012. So I've seen several people attempt to do that, and they've gotten everything from 2020 to like 2160 something. I really don't know where to fall on that one, but I do know there are people who are trying to redo the math on that. Is there geological evidence on how high the water got from cycle? If so, where can I find this info to estimate for this time? So the huge blocks of rock that are pushed up the Alps 2 kilometers, we know that last time when the wave came from the Pacific, it broke through the Rockies and dumped into the Gulf of Mexico. There are places you can see watermarks, although for the most part, erosion has taken that away over time. Best just to get away. There's not a great answer, Peter, for that. It's a legitimate question, but there's not a great answer for that. And it's different everywhere. Thanks again for all your work. Happy birthday, Rocky. Give him a sip of the AJ conspiracy. Wink, wink. Yeah, okay, Barb. Joe McDonald says, on July 23rd, 2012, a massive CME missed Earth by 9 days, and scientists agreed that if it hit us, it would have sent us back to the Stone Age. Slight correction. On July 4th, the eruption occurred. If it had been aimed at Earth, it would have hit within about 1 day. It was a very powerful event. But what's interesting is when you go and you look for the articles on that, the first one you can find reported was from NASA 2 full years later in July of 2014. If you go and you watch my morning news show from the day it happened, I straight up told you guys, we got so lucky. That would have been it. That would have been the end. It's a legitimate story, Joe McDonald. The date is slightly off on that one. But again, it took NASA 2 years to tell the world what I told everybody that morning, which really pissed me off. I get angry at them a lot, actually. I have globes in the inflatable beach ball type are best for this. You know, I actually agree. They're easy. They're easier to work around like that. Okay, scroll too far. After the Nova event comes, what professions would be best to rebuild civilization? Could you recommend some books for rebuilding civilization or working with primitive tools? No, I'm not the expert. I'm not the person who should be recommending that. I have some. I have quite a number, actually, and I have people recommending some to me. But no, I'm not going to make those recommendations. Think from cavemen up to Vikings, if that's helpful. All right, guys. Okay. people are like, how are you getting your folks at the dude? Our disaster plan at the ranch is classified. Okay. I'm not gonna for obvious reasons. Anyway, guys, appreciate it. Hysteria, that's a good point. I said Viking. I've invoked Susan, but I haven't seen her here yet talking about Vikings. So maybe she's busy at the moment. She does live like a Viking, so she probably has things to do. Anyway, guys, I will see you in the morning for the daily show. We have some good stories you're not going to want to miss. Good science, probably good for a laugh if you've been here for a while. Other than that, man, you guys are just typing away. Look at that. Holy moly. Well, all right. You guys have fun typing. I'll see you in the morning for the daily show. Be safe, everyone.